Hey guys, welcome to CPM 3. This is Module 4, Lesson 5. This is actually your last lesson in CPM courses. So in your last lesson, we are going to be problem solving with proportions. So before we do the problem solving, the word problems, we need to review proportions really quickly. So your first definition here is a proportion. A proportion is a mathematical statement that two ratios are equal. And when they refer to ratios here, they simply mean fractions. So they're saying two fractions are equivalent. So for example, if you have something like 10 over 20, hopefully by now you are so ingrained that once you see a fraction here, you reduce it. And so you would reduce this by 10, and so this would become 1/2, right? You would divide 10 by 10, 20 by 10 to get 1/2. This right here is a proportion. It says this fraction is equal or equivalent to this other fraction. And you can check these in your calculator. In your calculator, if you do 10 divided by 20, you get 0.5. And then if you do 1 divided by 2 in your calculator, you again get 0.5. So because these are equivalent, these are proportions. So to solve proportions, we use what is called cross product. Basically, you just multiply across. It says if AB equals CD, then AD equals BC. So they did AD equals BC. You're multiplying straight across. That's what they're doing right here. AD times BC. So, example 1, we're solving for x. It does not matter which way you cross multiply first. You can either cross multiply this way first or this way first. It does not matter. I like to cross multiply where my x is. So 5 times x is 5x. Equals, cross multiply this way, 45 times 7 gives me 315. Now you just solve. Now you have an equation. So divide both sides by 5. And we get x equals 63. Okay, so on A, we cross-multiplied this way first. But on B, I'm going to go the other way first because, again, that's where my x is. I like my x on the left side, but it does not matter what you do. So 3 times x is 3x, and 8 times 63 gives me 504. Divide both sides by 3. And x equals 168. Now C and D, we're going to do the same thing. Notice I have 2 different x's though. So this way's a little bit easier. 16 times x is 16x. I'm going to scoot this down a little bit. And now when I cross multiply this way, you have to be careful because what are we going to multiply by 5? The 3x or the -4? Well, that is, my friends, a trick question because we're multiplying both. This is distributive property. So this is the same as 5 times, in parentheses, 3x minus 4. You got to multiply everything. So we're going to distribute first. So I've got 16x equals 15x minus 20. We need to get x on the same side. So in order to do that, we're going to subtract 15x over. And so 16 minus 15 is 1. Instead of writing 1x, I'm just going to put x. So my x here equals -20. And same thing here on D. Doesn't matter which way you cross multiply first. I'm going to go this way here. So again, distributive property. That is 5 times x minus 5 equals, when I cross multiply the other way, that is 3 times x plus 2. So we've got distributive property on both sides. So distribute your 5, we got 5x minus 25 equals, distribute your 3, 3x plus 6. I need to get x on the same side, so I'm going to subtract my 3x over. I've got 2x minus 25 equals 6. Let's get our coefficient on the same side. So I've got 2x equals 31. Divide both sides by 2. And x equals 31 over 2. I'm trying to write this all together. I'll just scoot this over. Okay, so we got either x equals 31 over 2, or you can write that as a decimal, which is 15.5. Okay, so that's your review on proportions. Let's flip the page now. It says to find the blank of a number, interchange its numerator and denominator. This is reciprocal. So to find the reciprocal, interchange the numerator and denominator. So for example, the reciprocal to 2 over 3 would be 3 over 2. The reciprocal to 1 over 2 would be 2 over 1, which is the same as, it's 2 over 1, which is the same as just 2. So then the reciprocal of something like negative 3, we'll put that over 1. So the reciprocal to negative 3, or negative 3 over 1, would be negative 1/3. Okay, so you're just taking that fraction and flipping it. So example 2 says, given the variable in the first column, use the phrase in the second column to translate the expression, then continue to the phrase in the third column to translate another expression. So the first thing I have is just some number, and we're calling that some number x. So then how do you represent the reciprocal of a number? Well, if we put that x over 1, now the reciprocal of that is 1 over x. And then I need the reciprocal of a number. Well, my reciprocal of a number is that 1 over x. So then I'm just looking for this decreased by 3. So there's my reciprocal of a number decreased by 3. Okay, so that's going to be a My Math Lab question. Example 3 says 24 times the reciprocal of a number equals 6 times the reciprocal of a number. Find the number. Okay. So we have 24 times. So we've got 24 times the reciprocal of a number. What does the reciprocal of a number look like? That's your 1 over x. Okay, equals, so we need an equal sign. 6 times. And then again, the reciprocal, this time not of a number, but of 5. So that's 1 over 5. So, fraction rules tell me we can multiply straight across. So this is the same as 24 over 1 and 6 over 1, but multiply straight across. So 24 times 1 is 24. 1 times x is x equals 6 times 1 is 6, and 1 times 5 is 5. So now just cross multiply. We've got our proportion. So here we get 6x equals 24 times 5 is 120. Divide both sides by 6. And we've got x equals 20. Okay. Example 4, 1/6 equals the quotient of a number in 24. This one's even easier. You've got 1/6. So that's 1 over 6. And that equals, the quotient means to divide, and we're dividing a number in 42. So that means x over 42. So cross multiply. We've got 6 times x and 1 times 42. Divide by 6. And x here equals 7. And our last page. With this one here, we've got word problems now. What you need to make sure happens is that you need to match up your units. Okay, and that's different from what we just did last lesson, which was our dimensional analysis. In dimensional analysis, let's say you have 16 ounces here. If you have 16 ounces on the top, then we wanted ounces down here, right? Because the whole goal was to change my units, and so we wanted our units to cancel out. But now this time, if I have ounces on the top, ounces also has to be in the top. Okay, so with your proportions, since they need to be equal, they've got to be the same. So we have a 16-ounce grande shaken sweet tea at Starbucks has 100 calories. So that is my first proportion. So we have 16, and I'm going to put my units in parentheses because we don't really, the only reason we're writing them is to make sure that my proportion matches up, but we don't use them when we cross multiply. So 16 ounces has 100 excuse me, 100 calories. Okay, so now I need ounces again over calories. So it says how many calories, so I am solving for calories, so that's going to be my x, is there in a 24-ounce venti shaken sweet tea. So my 24 will go up here with my ounces. And so again, I only have those there to make sure my units match up. So I'm now going to just rewrite this with just my numbers. And now I can cross multiply. So I've got 16x equals 100 times 24 is 2400. Divide by 16. And so we get x to equal 150. But 150 what? What did this ask me? And what does my x represent? My X represents calories. So 150 calories. Now, what's kind of confusing, never mind, we won't even go into that. What I will say is this isn't the only way to set this up. There are literally 4 different ways to set up the same proportion. And so, well, shoot, there may be even more than that. There may be 8 different ways now that I'm thinking about it, but there are multiple ways. This is not the only way to set up this proportion. As long as when you come over here and you're cross multiplying and you're doing 16 times X and 100 times 24, you have set up your proportion correctly. Okay, as long as you have your units matched up, it should be fine. Example 6, the daily supply of oxygen for one person is provided by 625 square feet of lawn. So that's my first proportion. We have one person for every 625 square feet of lawn. So when I write this next proportion, I need people over square feet. So it says a total of 350 square feet, or 3750 square feet. So that goes down here with my square feet of lawn should provide the daily supply of oxygen for how many people? That's my X. So I'm going to rewrite this without my units. We've got 1 over 625 equals X over 3750. We're going to cross multiply. Here we've got 625X equals 1 times 3750 is 3750. Divide both sides. And so we've got X equals 6. But what does that 6 represent? X represented my number of people. So that is the number of oxygen for 6 people. Okay, then down here, this is actually not a hard problem. It's going to be a hard problem writing it in the way that they want you to write it. You are going to have a test question that is similar to this. In general, solving for y is not hard, but in your test, they are going to tell you to simplify your answer to an integer, which is a whole number, simplified fraction, or mixed number. And that's going to be the more difficult part. Okay. So find the length of the unknown. Find the unknown length. So set up your proportion. If I go 8 over 28, I went from the side to the bottom, so we've got to go side to bottom again and do y over 20. Now this is what I mean by there's multiple ways to work these out and set up this proportion. We could have also done 8 over y equals 28 then over 20. We went from big triangle to small triangle, so then big triangle to small triangle. Notice either way we do this, I'm multiplying 28 times y and 8 times 20. Okay, so that's just two of the ways I could have set this up. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. Okay, but if we start with the first way we did it, we went 8 over 28 equals y over 20. Cross multiply. I've got 28y equals 8 times 20 is 160. Divide by 28. And when you divide by 28 in your calculator, you're going to get 5 point something. Okay, it doesn't come out evenly. So this is where that simplified fraction or mixed number comes into play. You can do this in your calculator. Again, I can't show you that in this video. Okay, like many things I can't show you calculator-wise in this video. But if you want to bring it up to me, I can help you put that in your calculator. But because we don't have calculators, we're going to have to do this one by hand real quick. So simplify. We've got 160 divided by 28. I do know those are both multiples. Oops. Of 4. So when I divide those by 4, 160 divided by 4, I think is 40. Am I going crazy? Okay. Is 40. 28 divided by 4 is 7. That is as simplified as that fraction can get. I can't divide anything else into 40 or 7. You can also write this as a mixed number. So 7 goes into 40 5 times. That gives me 35. That means I have a remainder of 5, and that stays all over 7. If you use your calculator, I want to say it gives it to you in this answer here. And it will say something like, I don't remember, to be honest with you. It's like 5u, and then it does this little weird L thingy, and then like 5L7. Something like that. Okay, but your calculator will do that. If you're interested in how to do that by calculator and not by hand, come see me. So excuse me. Okay. So A had about 8 different ways we could have set that one up. That's only with 4 numbers. This one now has 6 numbers, so there's way more than 8 ways. What I do know when I set this up is that I need this y in here some way. So I'm going to go y over, y goes with 34 in this triangle. So because I went from small triangle to big triangle, you have to go back small to big. So it doesn't matter what other number you use. If you go with 18.75, then that would have to be over 30. But I'm sure you guys would prefer not to go with decimals. So we're going to then go 10 over 16. So now cross multiply. So we've got 16y. $34 times 10 is 340. Divide by 16. So we'll get y equals. This is another one that I can't, it doesn't come out nicely. 340 divided by 16 is 21.25. But again, I know I can divide both of these by what appears to be 4 again. So 340 divided by 4 is 85. 16 divided by 4 is 4. So that is my simplified fraction. Or you can write this as a whole number. Okay, that's or as a mixed number. So 4 goes into 85 21 times. That gives me 84. So that means I have 1 left over, and we keep that like denominator of 4. Either of these answers are great. What you can't do is write 21.25 because it doesn't say here as a fraction. Okay. All right, guys, that's your last lesson in CPM 3. We'll have one more video over the module review.